Robert, returning to bed after a mid-sleep bathroom break, heard a knock at his door. He paused for a moment and looked at the clock on the nightstand. It is very much 3 a.m., the man thought. I am not answering that. It is probably the wind anyway. Robert ignored the knocking and went back under his covers to return to the dream he was having about his job burning down and getting tomorrow off. But there was another knock. He continued to ignore. And then more knocking, getting louder and louder until finally he thrusted the covers off his body and ran downstairs to see who the hell bothers someone at 3 a.m. As he reached the door, some sense finally came to him. It's 3 a.m. and someone is banging on my door. He paused for a second and went to grab his gun from the top of his coat closet. Maybe someone's in trouble, or maybe it's someone looking to cause trouble. Robert hid the gun on his side and opened the door. But darkness was all he was greeted with. He peeked his head out the door and looked both ways, and nothing. No one, no wind, no animal, just darkness. He closed the door and went to put his gun back. Then he heard a knock. This time it sounds like it is coming from the kitchen window. Now he begins to get nervous. Before he was boldened by his sleepless state. But now he's aware of what's going on. All the lights are off in the house, and he slowly creeps to the kitchen, to the window where the knocking is happening. He opens the window and yells, "Who the hell is it?" But no answer, just a branch blowing in the wind. He closed the window back and stopped to take a breather. His heart is racing now. The fear is starting to set in, so he goes to the fridge to grab some water to calm himself as he goes to take a sip. Another knock, this time from the back door. The man runs to the back door and quickly throws the door open, causing it to hit his backlight and breaking it. But still only darkness is there to greet him. He quickly closes the door and goes to sit in the living room. Fear is starting to get a hold of him, and his hands are shaking. He lives on the outskirts of town, nothing but nature around him. The knocking could be anything, wind, animals. He starts to think this and calms down. So he heads back upstairs to go back to sleep. Anxiety just happened to get the best of him this time. As he goes to lay down, a shiver goes down his spine, knocking, knocking, sounding as if it's coming from everywhere. It's getting louder and louder. He falls to his knees, putting his hands over his ears. But still it won't drown the knocking out. He goes to scream and suddenly, nothing, silence, no knocking, no wind, no anything. Only the sound of the doorbell. The doorbell is a welcoming sound. It must be someone from town. His doorbell is ringing at this time at night. His doorbell is ringing at this time of night. Who would be ringing the doorbell at this time? Is it the same person who was knocking on the door? He doesn't want to answer, but it rings and rings and rings again. Fuck, he yells as he grabs his gun. I'm coming, I'm coming. Just wait a moment. He gets to the door and takes a second to take a deep breath and gather himself. Then the ringing stops, and instead another knock at the door. Once again the door flies open, and what's standing there is darkness and nothing more. He grabs his head. What the hell did I miss? Because all he sees as he looks out is darkness, that's it. Fuck this, someone is playing tricks, so closes his door and walks out into darkness abyss. He begins walking down a dark path, and there's a misty rain outside as he crept down the path. He jumps out of his skin as he sees a silhouette. He stares at it, but can't make out what it is. Slowly, one foot in front of the other, he creeps up. He cocks his gun and begins asking questions. Hello, was it you that knocked on my door? I didn't answer because it's late and I was trying to fucking sleep. Then you pressed my doorbell and kept knocking, but when I opened the door, no one was there. Why are you playing games so late at night? As he got closer and closer, he clenched the gun tighter. He pushed some branches out the way and pointed his gun, but there was nothing there. But there's a light in the distance, another house with its porch light on. The man didn't remember another house being there. He swears he was the only house in this part of the town. Could it have been them that was toying with me? Even if it wasn't, maybe they saw someone out here. Enough thinking, he goes to the house and begins to knock. The man knocked twice and waited a moment. The light is off now, but it was definitely on as I walked up. They must still be up. No way they fell asleep that quickly. He knocked once more, still no answer. They must be up, so the man makes his way to the side and then knocks on the window. He waits a moment, still no movement. The rain is starting to make him feel cold, and he looks and sees a back door. He quickly rushes to the door and knocks twice more, louder than usual. They surely heard that. Even if they were asleep, they have to be awake now. But still no one, so he makes his way back to the front. Why won't they answer? Whoever my neighbor is must be a bastard. Anger got the best of him, but he took a breath and calmed down. The events of the night just has him on edge. As he walks about to the front, he sees a doorbell. How lucky, he thinks. How did I miss it the first time? He rings the doorbell a couple times and no one answers. And then knocks once more, still ignored. Well, whoever lives here, I must have missed them, and he turns back to walk into darkness abyss. Terence and Holly, a couple just getting back from a game night with friends, are heading off to bed. As they begin to slip off their clothes to get ready for bed, there's a knock at the door. "Holly, did you hear knock?" Terence asked. Holly, still a little buzzed, says she didn't hear anything and made Terence is drunk. Terence doesn't think much of it. It's late and maybe the wind's just blowing. Then another knock and another, each one louder than the next. Now Holly notices and is a bit worried. Terence thinks maybe they forgot something at their friend's house and Hay brought it. He goes down and opens the door, but no one is there. Maybe I really am drunk, he thinks, then makes his way back up the stairs to bed. But then there's a knock at the window. Now he's getting creeped out. Terence slowly creeps towards the window and flashes his phone's flashlight, but no one is there. Now a knock from the back door. Terence, annoyed, dashes to the back door, and once he gets there, once again no one's there, just darkness to greet. Ding dong, he hears the ring of the doorbell. Terence doesn't know what to think. He grabs his bat in the hallway closet and slowly approaches the door. He swings it open with a shout, but still there's no one. Holly now comes downstairs asking what's wrong. She heard the doors opening and closing. Terence explains someone is playing pranks and he's going outside to see what's going on. Terence rushes outside, bat in hand, and begins to walk down the path. Soon Terence realized his mistake of walking into the darkness with just a baseball bat and nothing else. He lives out in the woods and there's no lights, just pitch black. He could just start wildly swing his bat, but all he will hit is a tree and not much else. Still, he continued walking down the path and he sees a silhouette in the distance. He slow approaches and yells. Terence raises his bat and Robert raises his gun. Terence drops his bat and now just his hands are raised. "Please don't shoot," Terence pleads. Then Robert lowers his gun. "Was it you who was at my home knocking on the door, the window, ringing my doorbell?" Terence tells him it wasn't him, but someone just did the same at his house. Robert explains that it was him that did it at his house. He didn't know someone else lived out in the woods and wanted to ask if they saw anyone. Terence as well thought no one else lived in these woods and that he had never known another house until now. But there's another problem. Robert told Terence he should have made it back home by now. He's been walking the path for 10 minutes, yet has not gotten any closer to his house. Terence, suspicious, asked Robert what way did he walk. Robert explained that he only walked straight the entire time, and yet he cannot get back. Terence said he will bring him back to his house, but he has to give him the gun. Robert, untrusting as well, simply takes out the mag and tosses it. Terence and empties the bullet in the chamber as well. Reassured, Terence starts to lead the way back to his house. They walk for what seems like 30 minutes, but never make it back to Terence's house. It's weird Terence only ran a short distance. He should have at least seen the porch light by now. But nothing, just darkness, no matter how much they walk forward. They both begin to worry and Terence takes his phone to call Holly. There's no signal, the call won't go through. They both begin to worry, but suddenly they see a light and a house in the distance. Robert and Terence creep up to the house, the light is on, and you can see through windows. There's no one there. It's an empty house. Robert explains he's already been through this twice and tells Terence that they should look around first. They go to the side of the house and look through the window and see a kitchen. Robert looks confused. Terence asks what's wrong. Robert explains that this kitchen looks exactly like his. Having similar things isn't that uncommon, I guess. He thinks and ignores it. But still, they see no one in the house. Then they walk towards the back of the house, to which Terence sees a kayak and a couple bikes in the back. Terence explains the bikes and kayak looks the same as the ones he has at home. There is only one outdoor shop in the town. If he bought them through the same shop, then it makes sense. Still, they see no evidence that someone may be home, and why would they leave the lights on? Are they scared of the dark? Then why live in such a dark forest? Even if they are afraid, the waste of energy is ridiculous. The two make their way back to the front door, and Terence goes to knock. Robert grabs his hand and waves his finger. Told you I've been through this a couple times. Robert looks and sees a doorbell. He presses the button and hears a loud ding. But it sounds as if the ringing is coming from outside the house as well as inside. They wait a moment and hear someone walking towards the door. Then the door slowly creeps open. The door opens and a huge man towers over the two. He's at 7 and 300 pounds, a Herculean man to the two. Taken aback by his appearance, Robert and Terence sit awestruck for a moment. Robert gathers himself and talks to the man. "Hi, we don't mean to disturb you so late at night, but we are." The man then cuts off Robert and says, "You guys are lost, I take it." Robert replied, "Yes, how do you know?" The man explains that he was lost as well, and then he came across this house. He is not the owner, but the person was nice enough to let him in. The man invited Robert and Terence in as well. They were visibly suspicious, but have nowhere else to go and decided to take him up on their offer. As the men walk into the house, Robert and Terence take a seat on the sofa. They begin to ask the man what happened and how did he end up lost as well. He explained that considering his stature, the man dislikes being in public places. Often he becomes the object of stares because of his huge frame, which is why he decided to finally get a house on the outskirts of town. Then tonight he began to hear knocks at his door. He was making a nightly tea and was going to go off to bed soon. He heard the knock and was going to ignore it, hoping they would go away and he could enjoy his night. But he soon learned that they would not leave so easily. The knocks began coming from everywhere. When the doorbell finally rang, he opened the door so hard it came off the hinges. He yelled in a rage and walked down the path in front of his house a bit to look for whoever it was. It was good he didn't find them because he was in a rage and who knows what he would have done. After a couple looks, he turned around to return to his home, but he was already lost. He swears that he didn't walk more than a couple steps outside, so he decided to just continue on the path and eventually he should make it somewhere. That's when he came across this house. He knocked on the door once and a man answered instantly. It was weird how fast he opened the door, as if he was expecting someone to come. Or maybe he just happened to be walking by it. Either way, the man invited him in and told him he can wait out the night here until morning. Robert explained the same thing happened to him and he also became lost. Until he came across Terence's house. Terence explained the same happened to him, except it was Robert harassing him. Robert apologized, but he was just on edge from everything that was happening. They then told the man they are lost as well and can't find their way back home. The owner of the house explained to him that the forest is set up to be a maze, and at night it doesn't take more than a couple steps to get lost. It is hard to find your way back in the dark, so it's best to stay until morning. The man explained, "I'm sure he won't mind if a couple more decides to stay." Robert then said he must be a really nice guy to be so hospitable. Then the owner of the house appeared from behind the huge man, holding a cup of tea. It shocked Robert and Terence as they weren't expecting him. The owner told them, "Sorry, I wasn't trying to scare you. Yes, I lived in these woods a long time, and it isn't the first time someone has been lost on my doorstep. Best to wait until the dawn, and then I send them on their way. My name is Clarence, by the way. May I have yours?" Robert and Terence introduced themselves, then everyone waited staring at the large man. "My name's Ashley," the man said in a mutter. Robert then joked a male Ashley, not something you see every day. "My parents wanted a girl okay," the man explained. They didn't think they would birth the human version of Shrek. The men all had a quick chuckle. Clarence then asked if they had saw anyone else out there on their way here. Both Robert and Terence shook their heads no. It was just us. Hopefully no one else has to go through such a fright that we did. Yes, hopefully not, Clarence said. So just us four, that is good. Then Clarence reached under his robe and pulled out a pistol, shooting Ashley in the head. Clarence dropped his tea and it shattered on the ground. Robert quickly jumped up and pointed his gun at Clarence, pulling the trigger. Nothing happened. Robert remembered he took his bullets out and gave them to Terence. But it made Clarence hesitate enough that Terence ran out the door and Robert soon followed him. The two ran out into the darkness. Clarence, pissed off, soon followed the duo. He walked outside in his robe, yelling and firing 2 shots in the air. Why couldn't you guys just ignore the knocking? Why did you have to open your doors to the darkness and invite it in? Why? Fuck, this happens every year. Once one person opens the door, the game starts and the game doesn't end until only one of us is left alive and all the others are fucking dead. You want to know something? There aren't multiple houses in this forest, there's only one. We all live in the same damn house. Isn't that a riot? Terence and Robert hiding, listening to the man in shock. But all Robert is thinking is he has to get to Terence and get his magazine back. The man continued, "When the sun came up that first night, I walked this forest, in every direction, mapping it out. I bought a drone and flew across the skies. You want to know what I saw? Nothing but trees. There wasn't another house in sight, and the path we are all walking down only leads to town and nowhere else. So how the hell do we keep coming across a house that is similar to our own? Fuck, I'm sick of this shit," Clarence said as he fell to his knees crying. Robert saw his chance and jumped out the bushes and rushed towards Clarence. Clarence saw and let off a shot, grazing Robert in his shoulder. Robert then tackled Clarence and began fighting with him. Robert began yelling for Terence to come help. Terence appeared from behind a tree and helped subdue Clarence from behind. Robert then pulled out his pistol and hit Clarence with it, knocking him unconscious. The two then dragged Clarence back to the house and tied him up, sitting him on the couch. "This guy is fucking crazy," Robert said, "and he fucking killed Ashley in cold blood. What was all that bullshit he was spewing about all of us living in the same house?" Terence nodded in agreement and then said that Clarence was talking about when you open the door, the game starts and it doesn't end until just one is left. The two men shook their heads. Clarence must have been talking nonsense. The two men decided to wait it out in Clarence's home. They sat for what felt like hours, and the night didn't show any signs of ending. Finally, Clarence woke up and told the men that the night won't end. Robert told him to shut the fuck up. First thing in the morning, they are going to the police and will report him for murder. Clarence told them only one of them will be able to go to the police station in the morning, and they will be as much a murderer as he is by that time. Robert told him to just be quiet and let him think. There must be a way out of here. Then thought that he has to go back outside. If we keep walking that path, we must be able to find something. Robert decided to go back outside, and Terence told him he would come along, just in case there's another maniac out there. The two ventured out together back into the darkness. They decided to just walk the path until they come across something, anything that might lead them back to town, or at least one of their homes. They kept walking, and yet no sign of anything. Terence looked up and told Robert, "When will the sun be here so we can end this crazy night? Also, isn't it weird that there's no moon?" "It is probably a new moon tonight," Robert explained, which explains how unusually dark it is here. Plus, we live in the outskirts of town, there's no lights out here, so it seems darker. Terence agreed, but then said, "But there isn't any stars in the sky either." Robert yelled for him to stop it, that he is just going to freak himself out. The two men kept walking until the path finally stopped. They were faced with a lake, a huge one that they couldn't see the other side of. "Do you remember a lake of this size being in the forest?" Terence asked. Robert bent down to just the water and just shook his head no. What the fuck is going on, Robert thought. Then suddenly Terence said, "Maybe Clarence is right." Robert then stood up and turned around while saying, "That fucking psycho doesn't know what he is talking about." When Robert fully turned, he noticed Terence pointing a gun at his head. Robert went to say, "Where did you get that?" and stopped because he remembered hitting Clarence's gun out of his hand. He didn't think about where it went because of everything that was going on. Robert then stared at Terence. "What are you going to do? Shoot me?" Robert said. Terence said he was sorry, but that he has to get back to his wife and he just wants the night to end. Robert said, "Fuck you." Then Terence pulled the trigger. The bullet hit Robert square in the forehead and fell back into the lake. Terence walked up to the lake and looked as he saw Robert's body slowly sink. Then once the body was no longer in sight, Terence saw a pair of glowing white eyes and the lake began to splash. Terence, frightened, turned and ran back down the path. He kept running and eventually he returned back to Clarence's house. He ran in and closed the door behind him, to which Clarence was sitting there with a grin on his face. Clarence questioned Terence, "Hey, where's your friend?" Terence, not in the mood for games, just looked at Clarence. "You're the last one, right? Once you're gone, the night will end and I can go back home." "Supposedly, that is how the game works," Clarence said with a grin. "Okay, fine then." Terence pointed the gun at Clarence. Suddenly, a gasp of air was heard. It was Ashley on the ground. He was still alive. Terence looked over at Ashley and he weakly said, "Help me." Clarence, in shock, said, "Wow, surviving a bullet to the head, what a rarity. I must be a terrible shot." "Well, now you have one more." Terence walked over to the barely breathing Ashley, pointed the gun at him and shot him in the head again. "Well, no coming back twice, I guess," Clarence said. "Okay, let's try this again. I'm the last one, Terence. Are you going to finish the job?" Terence then pulled the trigger and nothing happened. Clarence explained that his revolver only holds 5 bullets and that he shot 2 in the air. Terence will have to figure out a different way to kill him. Clarence told him that there are knives in the kitchen and to grab a big one. Terence, looking at Clarence with disdain, because he is clearly enjoying this, went and grabbed knife from the kitchen. Terence put the knife to Clarence's neck, but hesitated. "Yes, stabbing and shooting is different, aren't they? This is more intimate of a setting. Should I dim the lights?" "Shut the fuck up," Terence yelled. Clarence then said, "Please, just one more thing. When the night comes again, and you hear knocking, do not open your door. And pray the others do the same. Once you welcome in the darkness, you have no choice but to venture into the abyss. And you as the survivor, be careful to not let the abyss consume you. As I said, this isn't my first night, it's my 10th. The abyss, it never lets you leave. Slowly it begins to consume your mind. Now do it. End my misery." Terence still hesitated, just holding the tip of the knife to Clarence's neck. Clarence, frustrated, said "fuck it" and tilted his head back and driving his neck into the knife. A pool of blood started to come out and Clarence simply smiled as his eyes closed. Terence let go of the knife. He was in shock. He looked at his hands that had blood on them from Clarence taking that knife in his neck. Unsteady on his feet, Terence slowly walked over to the front door and opened it. He was greeted by the sun. A house in the distance, Terence prayed it was his. He turned the knob and walked into a familiar living room. He ran up the stairs to find his wife still sleeping from the night before and woke her in a hurry. Holly, wake up." She smacked his hands off her and asked what was wrong and why is he shaking her so hard. She checked the clock. It was 7:15 a.m. and she had no work. "Am I missing something, Terence? It's a weekend and I don't remember us having breakfast plans." Terence said nothing and just hugged her, thankful that she was still here. He apologized for not coming back last night and that something terrible had happened. To which Holly laughed. "What do you mean you fell asleep before me?" Terence had a bewildered look on his face and assured her that he definitely did not go to sleep. "Don't you remember, Holly? There was a knock at the door late and I went to answer it." "It was 2 a.m. and we are the only ones that live in this area," Holly replied. "Who would be knocking on our door this late? Besides, I would have heard it." "I was drunk, but I wasn't that drunk." No, Terence said in a panic. He assured Holly that he had just come through the door. He reached for his phone. They have cameras around the house, a necessary item to have when living in the woods. He went back a few minutes to show Holly he had just walked through. As he rewinded the tape, there was nothing. It didn't show him coming through the door. Then he went back further to last night. Still nothing. It didn't show Robert knocking. It didn't show him walking outside. Holly put her hand on his. "Baby, you just drunk a little too much and had a lucid dream. It's okay, it happens to the best of us. What was your nightmare about that it freaked you out this much?" Holly gasped. "Did I die in it? Is that why you hurried to wake me up? What was it, Terence?" Terence just sat on the bed for a moment and thought. Finally, he said, "Actually, I can't even fully remember. Perhaps it was nothing. I'm sorry for scaring you awake." Holly told him it was okay. She prefers that he wakes up and speaks to her if he's feeling a little uneasy. She then went downstairs to make breakfast for the two. Terence went and took a shower to calm his mind and thought back to the events that happened last night. Maybe it was all just a bad nightmare. I mean, 4 people living in the same house and not aware of it. How could that be possible? Honestly, he would prefer it was a dream than knowing that he killed 3 people with his own hands. Terence decided to keep it out of his mind and just continue with his life. Nothing will ever happen again, considering that everyone is gone now. That night, when Terence went to sleep, he found himself back at the lake where he killed Robert. He looked down at the lake and saw the glowing eyes again. The eyes continued to get larger and larger the closer they got to the surface. Then suddenly Robert jumped of the lake and grabbed Terence. "Congratulations to you for surviving the abyss, and to the winner goes the spoils." Terence pushed Robert back into the lake and began to run. He kept running and running until he came to the house again. He opened the door, greeted by the scene of Ashley dead on the floor and Clarence with a knife in his neck. Terence just stood in the doorway, when suddenly Clarence's eyes opened and looked over at Terence. Then he said the words, "Don't get swallowed by the abyss." Suddenly Terence woke up sweating and looked to his left of Holly just sleeping peacefully. He changed shirts and went to the bathroom to wash his face. He sat there and stared into the mirror, Clarence's words going through his mind. "Don't get swallowed by the abyss." What could he mean by that? Terence couldn't figure it out. Monday morning came and it was off to work for Terence. Terence never been a lucky man. In fact, he would consider himself less lucky than most people. But today started different. He stopped by his usual gas station for a quick coffee and lottery ticket. You miss every shot you don't take, so he always buys one because you never know. He grabbed his regular coffee and a nice gentleman in front of him bought it. Terence thanked him and went to his car that he was filling up. He looked at the meter and it stopped at $5. Looks like whoever redid the prices today messed up on his pump, and instead of gas being $3.49 a gallon, it was only 34 cents a gallon. The morning was starting off really good, and unbeknownst to Terence, it was only going to get better. He got to work to be met with the news that one of the lead managers was recently fired. Turned out they were giving information to rival companies. It would never have been found if not for Terence keeping immaculate notes and them noticing inconsistencies between some things he wrote and what the manager was reporting. They are crediting Terence with outing the manager. To reward him, he received the now vacant manager position and a hefty bonus. It was shaping up to be one of the best days of Terence's life. He couldn't wait to go home and tell Holly. Terence went out celebrating with some co-workers after work and got home a little later than usual. He was greeted by Holly watching the news. The lottery numbers were showing at the bottom on the screen. As soon as Terence walked through the door, Holly told him to hurry, they are showing the lottery numbers. Terence rushed over and pulled the ticket out of his wallet. Terence just sat in daze. "Honey, did you win?" Holly questioned. Terence didn't say a word, so Holly just grabbed his ticket and looked herself. "Oh my God," Holly yelled. We won. I can't believe it. They had just won the $100 million jackpot. This whole day was too much to process for Terence. He explained to Holly what else had happened today. From the coffee, to the gas, to the promotion at work. Now he won the lottery. Holly joked, "I guess that lucky star you were born under just took a bit to kick in." "Yeah, maybe," Terence said. Holly was busy celebrating, but Terence couldn't help but find all this weird. especially for it to happen after that night. "Don't get swallowed by the abyss," kept replaying in his mind. As the year passes, Terence's newfound luck holds steady. He finds it weird, but it's not something so out of hand that he would be suspicious about. Nothing else like that night has ever happened. So Terence accepts that it was simply a nightmare. Though he still has the periodic night terror of him standing in front of that lake. There hasn't been eyes in it though, the last couple times he visited the lake in his dream. The only thing off about Terence is that even with his newfound wealth, he cannot leave his home in the forest. Holly desperately wants a nice home in the city. Sure, the forest is nice, but with their new wealth, there's so many things she wants to try, and being on the outskirts of the city now seems like a waste. But Terence usually aggressively refuses any notion of moving out of the home. Holly always asks why Terence is adamant about staying in this home. He always answers the same, that he just feels comfortable there. It's coming up on the year to the date that Terence's nightmare happened and his luck change. He has the lake dream again. This time the eyes have reappeared. This time Robert, Ashley and Clarence bodies do not appear, but he hears a whisper. "As the abyss gives to you, you must give to the abyss." The lake's eyes meets Terence's, and it's as if he's in a trance. The next thing he knows, he wakes up. Nothing feels different, and he can't even remember the dream of the lake this time. He goes to work, but today's different than it's been the past year. No random luck, just a regular day. Which seems normal, but it has been far from normal for the past year for Terence. He arrived home that night in a daze. He barely spoke to Holly and simply said he was going to bed. He dreamt again of that lake and stared into its eyes before he was finally woken by a knock on the door. Terence woke up in shock. He was greeted by the morning sun, Holly's arm over him, and a knocking at the door. Terence moved Holly's arm over, threw on a robe, and began down the stairs to answer the door. The man went to ring the doorbell, but Terence flung the door open before he got the chance. "Hello, sir. I'm from the water company. Just wanted you to know we will be here checking out the water pipes and ensuring everything is up to code." "Yes, no problem. Just please try not to be too loud. My wife is still upstairs sleeping." "Yes, of course we'll try to get this done quick, and just to confirm this is 21 Abyss Lane, right?" Terence's head began to spin. He felt chills and lightheaded. He couldn't respond to what the man just said. He began to come in and out of consciousness, the eyes of the lake flashing through his head. He finally snapped out of it at the man's beckoning of him. Sir, excuse me, sir, are you okay?" "Yes, I'm okay. Sorry, it's just… I just woke up." "What did you ask?" "Is this 21 Orchard Lane?" "No, it's not. This is 18 Orchard Lane. The housing numbers are a bit weird out here. If you go back down the road, there's a turn that's easy to miss. 21 Orchard Lane is over there, quite a bit behind this house." "Ah, I see, thank you, sir. I'll go head over there. Sorry to bother you this morning." "No problem." Terence was still in a bit of shock, thinking of what he thought the man said. He made his way over to the kitchen, grabbed a glass out of the cupboard, and fetched himself some water from the sink. Terence began to drink the water, and after his first sip, he looked at the water and it slowly turned black. Pitch black, and eyes began to appear in the glass. Terence began to sweat profusely and stared into the eyes of the water, petrified, unable to move. Then he heard someone calling his name. He looked over at the entrance of the kitchen, and a figure slowly came around the corner. It was Robert, calling his name. "Terence, Terence, Terence, Terence." It was his wife, Holly. He failed to recognize her until she was right in front of him, with her hand on his shoulder. "Are you okay? You just been standing here looking at your water." Terence looked down at his cup, and the water was clear. He slowly looked around in the kitchen, and Robert was nowhere to be seen. "Sorry, baby. Yeah, I'm fine. I think I'm just a little under the weather today." Yeah, I can tell. Look how much you're sweating. Do you have a fever or something?" Holly said as she reached to put her hand on his forehead. "Yeah, I think I'm going to take the day off of work. I'm not feeling my best." Terence slowly made his way back up the stairs to go back to sleep. This time, luckily, he had no dream, just a peaceful sleep. He woke up to Holly, not yet back from work. He sat on the couch and turned on the TV to watch the news. While he was watching, suddenly the TV cut off and all the lights in the house with it. A sudden feeling of anxiety came over Terence. His breathing quickened. It felt as if he was hyperventilating and his eyes couldn't focus. Suddenly, sounds began coming from the TV. He stared at it and slowly got up and put his ear to the TV. It was the sound of water, splashing. The sound someone makes when they get out of a pool. Then began the steps, the wet steps, at first sounding far away and slowly, getting closer and closer and closer, until it sounded as if someone was right next to him, walking with wet feet in his living room. Terence grimaced and held his eyes shut. He could hear dripping coming from behind him, but with all his might he tried to resist turning around. When he felt a hand on his shoulder, it was too much to bear. He quickly turned to no one in the room. Turning to look back at the TV, suddenly there was a pitch-black humanoid figure standing in front of him. He couldn't scream, he couldn't look away. He tripped and fell onto the couch. There were no features on the being, just a black, wet figure. Wet feet sticking to the floor with every step. Slowly the figure towered over him and slowly began to bend down and place its hands on his shoulders. Terence couldn't move. Tears began coming from his eyes. If his body wasn't already paralyzed, the intense fear would have stopped him from moving. A black, wet face got closer and closer to his. He didn't see the black figure mouth move, but a sound rang intensely in his head. As the abyss gives to you, you must give back to the abyss. Did you enjoy your past year? There is a price for everything, and now it's your turn to give back. You must give back to the abyss. You must give back to the abyss, began ringing over and over inside of Terence's head. Blood started coming out from his nose, his ears, then the figure's eyes began to glow and stared deeply into Terence's. You must give back to the abyss. The words wouldn't stop. Terence's body began to convulse. Holly returned that night. When she walked into the door, she was greeted to a pitch-black house. She saw someone sitting on the couch. She spoke out, "Terence, is that you?" She went to turn on the lights, then suddenly she heard a scream, and a figure lunged at her. She screamed as she flipped the switch. When she opened her eyes and looked, there was nothing, just Terence, sitting on the couch. Maybe living in these woods is finally getting to her. She stood for a moment and calmed down her heart, which was beating out of her chest. She began talking to Terence. "Terence, Terence. Oh my God, are you fucking sleeping sitting up? All the lights are off and I'm seeing and hearing things and you're just fucking sitting there. I'm sorry for cussing so much, I'm just startled." "Terence?" Terence didn't say anything the entire time, and she slowly walked over to Terence, sitting straight up with his eyes open. Holly began to question if he was sleeping or if something was wrong. She never seen someone sleep with their eyes wide open. When she finally stepped in front of him, she felt that the floor was wet. What the hell happened here? Did you spill a gallon of water or something? Terence. She began shaking him, to which Terence snapped out of his trance and quickly grabbed Holly's arms, scaring her. She let out a slight yelp and then smacked Terence in the chest. "What is wrong with you? You scared me, you idiot. Stop playing around, you spilled water everywhere." Terence looked around and saw there was water all over him. "I'm sorry, I don't know what happened." "It's okay, I know you weren't feeling well. I'll go get some towels to clean it up." "Thanks, baby." "So what did you end up doing all day? Just sleep on the couch and spill water?" Terence thought back. He doesn't remember anything he did all day, but a phrase keeps going through his mind. "Give back to the abyss." "I'm sorry, Terence, what did you say?" "Nothing, I just watched TV all day and I guess I fell asleep at some point." "Well, I guess you're going to be up tonight, huh?" Holly said as she chuckled. "Yeah, I guess so." Terence rubbed his face, trying to pull himself together. Once the water was cleaned up, Holly made a simple meal for the two of them, since Terence's stomach may be upset, and they ate. She went up to bed, but Terence said he wasn't tired and stayed downstairs. He sat on the couch staring at the TV as if he was waiting for something to happen. But there was nothing. Terence started to become physically irritated. He stood up, pacing around the room. He grabbed the TV and began to shake it. He was grunting and the shaking became more violent. The entire TV stand began to shake, and right before it seemed as if he was going to snap the TV legs off, a knock came at the door. A soft knock, as if it was someone who has come to the home many times before. Not the knock of a stranger checking if someone's home. A simple knock, as if they know someone's there and they are waiting for them to open the door. Terence walked over to the door and hesitated for a moment. He took a deep breath and opened the door. He was greeted by darkness. With a resolved look on his face, Terence walked outside. There was an axe by the door. Terence grabbed and began to walk down the path, dragging the axe across the ground, leaving a line in the dirt. Cradled by the darkness, Trevor is a bit of a thrill seeker. Anything that gets his heart pumping excites him. He doesn't feel alive unless he is risking his life. Whether it's bungee jumping, free climbing, or having sex without a condom. He has to risk it all at all times. Maybe because of his exciting lifestyle, he really values his alone time and meditation. Causing him to move in the middle of the woods, he fell in love with the quiet nights. Often he goes for a jog in the middle of the night through the forest, not as dangerous as the others, but just enough to make his heart pump a bit. The heavy breathing from the run and the anxiety from the dark forest, not knowing what's behind the next tree, an animal, maybe a person, just the wind blowing. The constant guessing in his head gives him a bit of euphoria. Perhaps this was the wrong night to go on a run, however. His run was coming to an end for the night. He tends to run for 2 miles and circle around and run 2 miles back home. A light run to end the day. He noticed that he has been running for longer than usual on the path back home. He looked down at his smart watch and looked at the path he has run so far, and it showed that he has just been running in circles for the last 15 minutes. Though, as far as Trevor is concerned, he's been running straight down the path the entire time. Maybe because of his thrill-seeker lifestyle, he was able to remain calm and began to walk the path, paying attention to his surroundings. Did I take a turn and not pay attention, maybe? Maybe my watch is just broken. Even if I'm lost, I can just wait until morning. This forest has no animals in it anyway. All of these thoughts ran through his head as he continued to walk. Finally, he came to a crossroad. It confused him, but piqued his intrigue at the same time. He definitely didn't cross this path before the job, yet now there's a fork in the road that just appeared. Could he have just missed it? No. Although he had only moved in the past year, he has already jogged this path almost 100 times. There's no way he wouldn't have noticed, even though he only runs at night. Something's up, and he's going to find out what's going on. He took the path on the right, though not like it mattered. Both paths lead to the same thing. Trevor ran down the path, smiling. This is the kind of rush he is looking for. The jog was almost a sprint. He finally slowed down when he came up to a house. A house similar to his own. He crept up to it and looked around. He didn't see anyone. He looked through the windows, but still no one was in the house either. Trevor knocked on the door a couple times and waited. No one came. He saw a doorbell and rung it as well. Still no answer, so he tried turning the handle to the door, and to his surprise, the door was unlocked. He opened it wide, yelling, "Excuse me." But there was nothing, no sound at all. Even if a person was sleeping, you think, they would have at least turned a couple times, if not wake up from all the commotion he was making. Trevor, confused, simply sat on the couch. He was extremely nervous. In a stranger's house, with no one home. What if they just stepped out for a moment and he just allowed himself in? What if they think he is a thief or a murderer? At the very least, they will think of him as a really weird guy. Maybe he should go outside and just wait by the house, but it is the middle of the night and he could still startle them. Should he hide behind a tree and wait for them to arrive and then come up and knock? What if they see him behind the tree and they have a gun? Will they shoot? Maybe they will hear him out. After all, it's not uncommon to get lost in the woods, but why be in the woods at night anyway if you're not some weird murderer? 'Cause he wanted to have a jog. At this point, Trevor began to regret his extreme lifestyle. All these thoughts ran through his head, and still he was just sitting inside the house. Finally, he decided he was going to go outside, and he will just wait for whoever lived here at a safe distance, just in case he had to run away. Hopefully they are good people and will hear him out. Right as Trevor opened the door to wait outside, he saw a figure in the distance. It looked like a person. Trevor yelled out, "Hello?" But there was no response. Trevor became nervous. Sorry about letting myself in. The door was unlocked. I was out for a jog and got lost. I swear I'm not some weird guy. I just enjoy the night wind," Trevor said as he chuckled nervously to himself. Slowly the figure got closer and closer. Then Trevor noticed that was dragging something. The man still said nothing to Trevor, which began to make his skin crawl. A feeling of doom began to come over him. Trevor broke out in a cold sweat as the man was finally close enough to make out his face. He was dragging an axe across the ground. Then the man was almost right in front of him, so Trevor began small talk, out of pure fear and anxiety, hoping the man's response would ease him. "Hi, I'm Trevor. We must be neighbors. I came across your house and the door was unlocked. I let myself in. But I swear I didn't take anything. I just got lost looking for my home. But well, I guess this is as good a time as any to meet each other, right? Haha." "Trevor, is it?" "Yes. I'm Terence." "Good to meet you, Terence. Were you out chopping firewood?" "No." Okay," Trevor said under his breath. "Well, come in. The forest becomes a maze at night." Terence walked into the house, first axe still in hand, and Trevor followed behind him, closing the door. Trevor, heart still pounding, began to speak, but every word sounded as if he was trying to catch his breath in between sentences. "Sorry, I hope I'm not intruding too much. At the break of dawn, I will be gone." "Don't worry, I don't plan on letting the night drag on too long." Something about what he said, or how he said it, began to make Trevor rethink staying in the house. Trevor slowly began to back away from Robert. "What are you doing, Trevor? Even if you go outside, all paths will just lead you back to here." Trevor, hands shaking, turned around and tried to unlock the door to run out of the house. He didn't know why, he just felt he had to get out of there. It was too late. As he began to turn the knob to leave, he felt an axe in the back. He fell to the floor and Terence came over him and pulled the axe out. Trevor began to scream in pain. "Sorry to be a bad neighbor, Trevor. I would rather do this quick, but I don't own a gun, you see." Why? What did I do? I'm sorry for turning up unannounced. Please don't kill me." "That's what you don't understand, Trevor. I have to kill you or it won't be satisfied." "What? Who?" "The abyss. What the abyss gives must be given back." Then Terence stopped speaking and took the axe, driving it into Trevor's body. Again and again and again, blood began to splatter everywhere. Robert's entire body was covered in Trevor's blood. He is dead long ago, yet he kept hacking away, as if he was in a trance. He then looked over at a mirror and saw himself drenched. He walked upstairs, undressed and wiped the blood off his body. Then looked in the close and proceeded to get dressed. Walked back down and dragged Trevor's body away, hiding it in a closet before wiping the blood off the floor. Just two more now, he thought to himself, but no time for self-reflection as there was a knock on the door. Terence, impatient, answered the door, as if whoever been there has been knocking for a while. The person standing there was a frail-looking man, long hair that almost covered his eyes and extremely pale skin. As if stained by moonlight, the way the man spoke in itself was peculiar. He first asked if Terence was there alone. He didn't even bother to give his name or ask for Terence's name. Terence answered him though, out of fear he may have been hiding and seen Trevor walk in. "Yes, I'm here in this house alone." "I see, living alone in the woods. What an odd choice. Makes one wonder what kind of lifestyle you live." "I live a very regular life. I'm an accountant at a law firm in the city. I just prefer the serenity of the forest." "I too enjoy the quiet privacy of the forest. It seems we are neighbors, but I have never seen your home." "I've never seen any homes near me, yet I took this path and here I am, as if something was leading me here. You didn't play a trick on me, did you, Terence? It wouldn't be very neighborly of you." "I did no such thing. Perhaps you just ventured a little too far from your home. All the trees start to look the same after a while. I'm sure by morning you will find your way back." "Yes, the morning. By the morning this will all be a bad dream." "Well, are you going to invite me in, Terence? You don't have to say it directly, simply a nod will do. I'm not a vampire. I can walk into any entrance, invited or not. Still, I prefer to be invited." "Good joke. Sure, come in. Relax until the sun comes up." "Will do." Something about this man made Terence wary. He seemed as if he would break a leg simply from rolling an ankle. However, he has something about him that doesn't make him seem like an easy opponent. Terence decided to wait for the last one before trying anything. Perhaps he can convince him to help take down this man whose name he does not know. The man cautiously circled the living room, surveying the house. Then he asked if he could get some water from the kitchen. Terence said it was okay. He remembered the house layout should be similar to his own and told him where the cups were so the man wouldn't be suspicious. Terence heard the water running, but when the man returned, he didn't have any water with him and his hand was behind his back. "Where's the water?" "Oh, I drunk it in there." "I see." The atmosphere was seeming to get more tense when suddenly the man lunged at Terence with a knife trying to stab him. Terence quickly moved out of the way, then the two was at a stalemate in the living room. Terence thought maybe he saw him kill Trevor and was preparing for this the whole time. But the next thing the man said let Terence know that the person he is dealing with is completely different than anyone else. "What the fuck are you doing?" "Oh, you dodged that. Most people don't know what to do and simply freeze in place. I kinda expected it with you though. You've been tense this entire time. It made me wonder if you knew about me. That this neighbor I never met has been spying on me this entire time and saw my hobby." "What the fuck are you talking about?" "You don't know. I thought you were the same as me. There's nothing more enjoyable than that look in someone's eyes. That shock of dying, eyes wide as if they want to say, 'How could you do this to me?' I die of laughter every time. Living in the forest, there's no better place to do it. So many places to hide a body, I felt as if I could do this for years." "You're fucking crazy, man." "I'm crazy. Don't fucking judge me. I know you're the same. You did a good job cleaning up, but the smell of blood, it's not such an easy thing to get rid of. Maybe you're new at it, or maybe I came too quick. You didn't have enough time to mask the smell. Don't worry, I didn't mind the smell. If I could make a candle out of it, I'd burn it 24 hours a day. But enough of that, let's get back to this." The man used the couch to leap over at Terence, who ran across the room and put his back to the wall. He then ran at Terence, who dodged the knife and pushed the man to the ground before running out the door. That was his opportunity to turn the tables, but Terence only killed because of the Abyss influence. He didn't know what to do when confronted with a real psychopath. He looked back and the man was standing in the doorway. A slight smile came across his face and he jumped off the porch to chase Terence. He laughed gleefully as he chased, as if he was having the time of his life. "Man, I love killing, but for some reason tonight I feel even more euphoric. Stop running, let's kill each other and see who is the last standing." Terence quickly jumped off the path and hid in the forest. He was cradled behind a tree, trying to catch his breath, silently praying that he doesn't hear him. What a turn of events. Terence thought he would be the hunter this time, yet again he's the one scared for his life. The man with a knife still in his hand stopped, right around where Terence hid in the trees. "I know you're here. The voices in my head told me that you're around. Man, I never thought I was schizophrenic, but these voices have been very helpful. Your name is Terence, right? Let's be friendly. Explain to me what this night is. No matter what path, I can only go in circles. Is it killing? Is it a death game? Is that why you killed a guy earlier? I love games. I love killing. I love the night. I can love you too, Terence. I'll love you with every stab to your heart." The man began laughing maniacally as he finished his sentence. Still, Terence refused to move. The man started walking slowly to the forest, looking behind the trees, knife first. Terence covered his mouth and closed his eyes. When he opened them, the spirit of the Abyss was right in front of him. A serial killer to his rear and the Abyss right in front of him. The spirit slowly got closer. The spirit was clad in black, and no matter how close it was, there was no face to make out. The more he looked at the face, the darker everything got. Staring in the face of the spirit was like entering a black hole, and Terence was in a trance. Suddenly everything went black, and his surroundings disappeared. Suddenly, in the black hole, roaches began to run on all sides, followed by what he could only think of as the face of a demon. Jumped at him, howling. Terence feared for his life and jumped away. When he looked around, he left his hiding spot and was now in the middle of the path. The man jumped out of the forest as well. "Here you are. I didn't think you to be so timid to be scared of a little darkness. Shall we finish this game?" The man ran at Terence, taking big swipes with his knife as if he wanted to miss Terence. He wanted to see a struggle. One time he hit the ground a little too hard with the knife and didn't recover as fast, allowing Terence to grab his arm. The man tried to pry Terence's arm away, but his other arm was grabbed as well. Now the two were standing in the path, struggling with one another. The man gave Terence a hard headbutt, knocking him to the ground. Terence was stunned. The man got him in the nose and he began to bleed. As the man walked over him, he told Terence, "I hate headbutts, let's end this game." He went for a fatal stab when suddenly a person jumped out the trees and shoulder charged him. The man was caught off guard and fell to the ground, dropping the knife. The person who pushed him down was Holly, Terence's wife. She then went over to Terence to try and help him stop the bleeding. Terence couldn't believe it. He kept asking Holly what she was doing here, but she didn't answer. She was more worried about helping him. Then Terence felt a presence over him. The man was towering above Holly. He grabbed her by her hair and tossed her away to the ground. "This fucking bitch. This is why I hate women, always doing unnecessary shit. That's why when I kill you, I always make you guys suffer the most. You're not like men, you're much more smaller, fragile. It's so easy to wrap my hands around your neck and slowly squeeze until I see the light fade." The man smiled as he began slowly choking Holly while sitting on her chest. Holly was grabbing his hands, trying to pry them off her, and scratching his arms. The man started laughing. "Come on, you're doing it wrong. Let me give you a hint. You should be clawing at the face." Holly started wildly swinging her nails trying to reach his face, but the man was tall and had a long torso. Holly's hands couldn't reach his face. "Yes, that's it, struggle. Come on, try and get me. Unfortunately for you, I was blessed with height, with strength. But don't worry, you were blessed too. You have the blessing of being my toy for a couple more seconds. Do you feel how my grip is getting tighter and tighter? You aren't moving your hands too violently anymore. It'll be over soon." Right as he said that, Terence put the knife to his throat and slit it as hard as he could, partially decapitating the man, with blood splurting all over Holly, who was still laying under him. Terence pushed his body off of Holly. "Baby, are you okay? What the fuck are you doing here?" All Holly could do was cough. She was still feeling the effects of being choked and couldn't say any words. Terence helped her up. "Come on, there's a house just up this path and we can get you cleaned up." Terence helped her to the house and took her over to the sink in the kitchen. He grabbed a towel and helped her clean her face off that had blood splattered on it. Afterwards, he walked Holly over to the couch and sat her down as he saw she was still visibly shaken from what just happened. He went and grabbed her a cup of water. She took just a sip and sat for a moment. She turned to Terence to ask him what is going on. "That psycho was trying to kill me." "But why was he trying to kill you? How did you meet him? Where are we?" "It's a lot to explain. Basically, we are in a game. Every year for one night, this forest turns into a maze. You can't return to your home until you're the last one left." "What do you mean you can't return until you're the last one? Terence, have you killed people?" Terence just sat in silence. He didn't want to answer Holly's question. "Terence, answer me. That man out there is dead. We killed him. How many times has this game happened? How many people have you killed?" "This is only my second time, and the first time I was confused. They were trying to kill me and I fought back. I just thought of getting home to you." Wait. This has happened to you before. I have wanted to move all year, and you refused. You refused knowing that this game was going to happen. We could have left, and none of this would have happened. Yet you chose to stay. You were adamant about not going anywhere. Are you fucking enjoying this game? Are you some kind of sick fucking freak? Why the fuck did we stay here knowing that this would fucking happen? Why didn't we run as far as fucking possible? Why didn't you tell me? How many people did you kill last time? What the fuck is wrong with you?" Terence just looked away from Holly. He couldn't bear to look her in the eyes right now. He was too ashamed to answer anything. What she is saying to him is right. They could have moved away. The opportunity was there. Everything was going right. He received a big promotion. They could have gotten a house in the city, and maybe things would have worked out. But something kept him here. Did he enjoy this game? "Terence, I need you to look at me." Holly grabbed his face and turned it to hers. "Please tell me you're not some lunatic murderer. Are you just like that guy outside?" Terence jumped up to refute her. "What? No, I'm nothing like that fucking psycho. He was enjoying this. He murdered for fun, regardless of this game. I don't want to do this, but the only way I survive is by killing them. If I don't kill them, they'll kill me. That's what the fuck it is. You want me to come home tomorrow. You want to wake up and still have a husband. Then it's me or them. I'm not gonna lie down and just let someone fucking kill me. Then why? Why what? Why are you out here? If you knew about this game, if you don't enjoy it, why were you already out here? How did you lead me to this house as if you had already been here? We could have stayed home. Why didn't we? Because everything good that happened this year is because I won this fucking game. There are you happy, is that what you wanted to hear? If not for surviving last year, I don't get that promotion, I don't win that lottery, fuck, maybe I get fired. You enjoyed this last year, right? You were having such a good time. Bragging to your friends, going out shopping, that new car you purchased, it drives so much better than that fucking beat-up Honda that you had, right? This game gave us a better life, a life I plan on keeping. A life you want to keep, huh? Holly said while laughing mockingly at Terence. So you kill people for just a few perks, a promotion, a couple extra dollars, a nice new toy or two, and you just become a hitman for hire. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Terence? Please explain it to me, because based on what you just said, it is exactly like that. Yes, this past year has been fun, but had I known what it took to achieve this, I'd rather burn that fucking car. Whatever. This argument is stupid. Whatever you or I think, we are in this now. There's only one left. Then after that we can go home, sit down and discuss it. What do you mean there's only one more? The last time, there were 4 of us. The other 3 died and I was left. It ended after that and I was able to finally go home. The other 3 died, Holly said while giving Terence a stern look. I killed them. You're fucking unbelievable. Wait, 1 left and you said there were 4 last time. That guy was the second person you killed. You already killed someone before him. Terence pointed to the closet. Holly walked over and grabbed the door handle with her hand shaking. She didn't want to open the closet. She hoped nothing would be in there. Holly slowly opened the door and there she saw Trevor. Stuff into the closet, dead, axe wounds all over his body and covered in blood. The murder weapon sitting in the closet next to him. She quickly turned around, gagged, to which Terence walked over and tried to console her. As he hugged her, Holly began to push him away, smacking him in the face, hitting him, yelling, "Get away from me, get the fuck away from me," sobbing uncontrollably. Who even are you? How could you do this to someone, and is that our fucking axe? Terence just nodded his head, which made Holly scream even louder. I just want this night to be over. What even is this? Why is this happening? Terence went over to console Holly again. He told her, don't worry, this night will be over soon. Then when they get back home, if she leaves, he'll understand. What do you mean I don't want to leave? I just want you to stop. I can't stop until there's only 1 left. The night won't end. You said there were 4 last time, so you have to kill 1 more person for us to go home. This night sucks. This game fucking sucks. Yeah, there were It was then that Terence had a sudden realization. Holly, how did you get here? What do you mean, how did I get here, Terence? I walked and saw you outside getting mauled by a psycho. Little did I know it was you and him jockeying for the #1 spot. No, why are you not at home asleep? Why are you even outside? Then Holly explained that at first she was asleep. Then she heard someone knocking at the door. She figured it was the wind and ignored it, but the knocking continued. She had asked for Terence to go see who it was at the door, but she never got an answer. She reached her arm over to shake Terence just to discover that he was not in bed and that the knocking was still happening. It began to annoy her, so she went downstairs to see what was going on. She looked out the peephole, but there was no one there. She figured they gave up and left. Then there was a knock at the window in the kitchen. She rushed over to see who it was, and yet still no one was there. It was at this point that she began to feel frightened. Taking a step back from the window, Holly went and grabbed a knife, tightly clutching it with both hands. The darkness of the house was giving her even more anxiety, and so she went to turn on the lights, but when she flipped the switch, nothing happened. The knocking began at the back door now, and she was too afraid to even go near it. It was then that she began to yell out Terence's name, hoping he would appear to save her, or if he was the one messing with her, that he would stop. No matter how much she yelled for him, Trevor never came. The knocks at the back door became more aggressive, as if they were trying to knock the door down. Holly backed herself into a corner, still clutching the knife. Suddenly the knocks stopped, and everything fell silent, though this did not give her any relief. It was a deafening silence. No wind, no branches, no cicadas, no crickets, nothing. It was as if the world itself just stopped moving. It was then that there was an eerie creak of the back door opening. Holly's heart sank as she saw a shadow figure standing in the hallway now. The two simply stared at each other, then the figure quickly started moving towards Holly. She ran quickly out of the kitchen to the front door and began running down the path yelling for Terence. She dropped the knife at some point on the path when she finally stopped to catch her breath. That is when she saw Terence fighting the man and quickly stepped in to save him. "Fuck, Holly, why couldn't you just stay in the house?" Did you not just hear my story? A fucking man, ghost, spirit, or whatever was coming after me. Besides, if I don't leave the house, you're probably dead right now. You should be thanking me." "I should be thanking you," Terence said with a chuckle. "This is the worst-case scenario right now." "What do you mean?" "I said there were 4 of us last time, and the game doesn't end until there's only one left." "Yeah, so what's your point?" Terence then pointed at the closet door, where Trevor's dead body. "That's 1. He then pointed to the front door, stating, "That's 2. Next, Terence pointed to himself, saying he was 3. Then he pointed to Holly. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. She instantly understood now the gravity of the situation. She has stepped foot into the abyss and entered the game. There can only be one winner or the night will not end. She looked up at Terence and stood up slowly, backing away from him with fear in her eyes. "Are you going to kill me?" Terence. "What, Holly, stop. Are you going to fucking kill me, Terence? Answer the question." Terence stood up and tried to reassure Holly that there's no way he was going to kill her and that they would find another way to end this night. Holly questioned him how, and Terence just stood there silent. He had no idea. She began to ask how long could the night last, and if that thing that chased her out the house is still around. It could kill them both, or force them to kill each other. Terence sat back on the couch and began to think. When Holly suddenly suggested, "What if I leave? I'll just go outside and we'll be separated." "What, Holly, that's stupid. Stay here with me. You don't know what's out there." "I don't know what's in here," Holly spouted at Terence. "Holly, you know me. I wouldn't hurt you." "I didn't think you would hurt anyone. I thought you were a good man." "I am a good man," Terence shouted. "Oh yeah, there's what 5 people no longer alive because you, a good man, decided your life was worth more, right? How do I know right now you won't choose yourself over me? And how could I stop you? At least if I'm not here, I'm giving myself a fighting chance, or at least a couple extra minutes of life before a good man comes to take my life." Terence just sat there in silence. He couldn't say anything to Holly as she left and slammed the door behind her. He just sat on the couch with his face in his hands and just began to scream. He couldn't believe what was going on. Terence simply sat there silently for a long time until he heard something from behind him. It was Trevor. His body was still mutilated, but somehow animated. Maybe from Terence's depressed state, he didn't even bother to turn around and face the shocking scene before him. Trevor began to speak to Terence. "Woo, I can't believe it. You just let her walk right out that door." "I remember when I tried to do that, and well, it didn't end well for me," Trevor playfully said while showing the axe wounds on his back. "But you know that. You were there, remember?" Trevor then began swinging his arms as if he was holding an axe. "Man, were you a lumberjack or something, because that form was solid." "Shut up." "Shut up, yeah, shut up." "Well, you made sure of that, didn't you? You made me shut up forever, but I guess I'm speaking now, but let's not deal with semantics." Trevor, now in front of Terence, kneeled down and moved Terence's hands from his face. "Hey, look at me." Terence turned his head away from Trevor, which made him angry. "Fucking look at me. You can't take your handiwork. Why do you think I look like this? That I tripped and fell in a pit of fucking knives? No, each one of these gashes was made one by you. Now go grab that fucking axe and finish this game. It took, 5 to 6 hits before I died. That bitch won't take even half that. Make it quick, do her a favor." "Fuck you," Terence yelled as he pushed Trevor away. Trevor began to egg him on then, telling Terence to get angry to let the abyss take him. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and Trevor got eerily excited. Terence, at this point, was standing up pacing. He wasn't paying attention to what Trevor was doing as he walked closer to the door. Suddenly, Trevor yelled at Terence to get it together because they have another guest that wants to speak with him. Terence paused for a moment and looked over at Trevor. That's when Trevor suddenly swung the door open, and the person there was the same psycho that almost killed Terence. He was standing at the door with his head dangling, barely attached to his neck, still from the cut that Terence made. Terence fearful, eyes turned large, and his breathing became faster. He was fidgeting a bit. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Suddenly he finally understood what was going on. He took a close look at Trevor with bloody footprints left with every step. And now the man who almost killed him is back, and he doesn't know what might happen. The man tried to speak, but his head was unattached, and just gurgling sounds were made. The man then grabbed his head and moved it back to its rightful place, then twisting his neck to check that it's attached properly. With every twist, a loud cracking sound was made. "Wow, that's better," the man said as he looked over at Terence, that was still in a state of shock of what's going on. Terence's fear of this man and his dismay that he has returned as left frozen in place. "Why are you looking at me like that? You act as if you're seeing a ghost," the man said as he looked at himself. "Oh right, you are seeing a ghost. But nothing to fear, I'm the one that's dead, remember?" He then took his finger and slid it across his throat. "A clean cut. But don't worry, I'm not a vengeful spirit or anything. You win some, you lose some. Like this loser over here," he said as he pointed at Trevor. "This guy is talking about an axe and, oh, my back hurts so much. A swift death is the best, so go grab one of those knives and just get this over with. Hey, here's an idea. Sneak from behind her and do it that way. You don't have to see the light leave her eyes. I know what you're thinking, that's the best part. But for some reason I feel like it wouldn't be that fun for you." "No use the axe," Trevor intervened. "Not only is it funner, but it's also an arm workout. Talk about two birds." Then Trevor and the man began arguing back and forth whether Terence should use a knife or an axe, the merits of which one would be more satisfying. The two began arguing louder and louder until Terence finally yelled for the two of them to shut up. Suddenly the two stopped talking and just silently stared at Terence, who stared at them back. Suddenly, speaking in unison, they said, "Well, the night won't end until there's only one. There can only be one person left, or the abyss won't be satisfied. What will you do, Terence?" It was then that Terence heard a voice, a familiar voice. "You could kill her the same as me." Terence turned to see Robert sitting on the couch, with his back turned to Terence. Robert put two fingers to his head and said, "Boom, there's nothing easier than that." "Speak for yourself," Ashley said as he came from the kitchen. "It took 2 shots for me. You don't want that pain, laying there in a pool of your own blood. It was difficult even coming up with the words, 'Help me,' and this fucker shoots me again." "Fair point. So what will you do, Terence?" Robert said. "I'm not going to do any of those things to her. She's my wife. I'll figure out some other way. I won't kill her, and I'll end this night. There has to be way. There must be a way." "Right," Terence said as he dropped to his knees, tears in his eyes. "The night won't end, so I have plenty of time to think. Or we could just live here forever. Yeah, why not? We can just live here." As Terence looked up suddenly, they were all standing over him. In unison, "Don't fuck with us, Terence. This only ends one way, and you know that." Then they all chanted, "Kill her, kill her, kill her." Terence just sat there cowering with his eyes closed and covering his ears as they all yelled at him. Suddenly the man said, "Fuck it, if you won't do it, I will. I almost killed the bitch anyway until you stopped me." He picked up the knife and left out the front door. "I guess I'll finish what I started." Terence saw this and yelled for him to stop. The man already left the house. Terence chased after him as the others just made way and allowed for Terence to leave. He desperately chased the man, yelling, begging him to please stop. That he will figure out a way to save her, she doesn't have to die. The man didn't listen. He continued to run the path, laughing with joy, can't believe that he gets to come back and kill again. Terence ran as hard as he could to catch up to him, and finally he caught him and grabbed him by the shoulder, turning him around. The man turned around with a shock expression on his face, as Terence began to wrestle the knife out of his hands. Him and the man went back and forth until Terence squeezed his wrist so hard he was forced to drop the knife. The man then told Terence, "You can't stop me, someone has to do it. The night has to end. You keep trying to turn your head from reality. Why don't you realize you have no choice? You never have since that first night. No, I won't let you hurt Holly. I'll find a way. I'll protect her." The two men then fell to the ground wrestling. Terence began to easily overpower him as he got on top of the man, but he kept spouting how Terence can't do anything to stop him. Holly will die no matter what. Terence was fed up with his speaking and grabbed the knife that fell to the floor. He then stabbed the man, who began to laugh. "What is stabbing a dead man going to do, huh, Terence?" "Shut up," Terence said as he continued to stab the man over and over and over again. Slowly the man stopped fighting back. Still Terence continued to stab him. Then slowly a hand raised up and softly touched Terence's cheek. The rage began to die down, and when Terence looked down, the person he saw wasn't some psycho. It was Holly, her bloodied hand on his cheek. "Holly?" Terence shouted as he grabbed her hand that was on his cheek. Holly tried to speak, but blood filled her mouth and she couldn't say anything. She just coughed from slowly choking on her own blood. "No, no, 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 please. God, no, Holly, I'm sorry. I didn't, Holly's eyes slowly closed as she passed away. Everyone that Terence killed was standing behind him: Robert, Ashley, Clarence, Trevor, the psycho. They sat and stared at Terence, sitting on a bloodied Holly from being stabbed multiple times. Suddenly, Holly showed up alongside them. She finally died at the hands of Terence. Slowly they disappeared one by one. Robert and Ashley just silently left. Trevor, with an angry look on his face, disappeared as well. The psycho laughed manically at Terence before finally fading. Then Clarence put his hands on Holly's shoulder before leaving as well. Holly was left alone to look at a crying Terence hugging her body. As the dawn began and light slowly began to seep into the forest, Terence picked up Holly's body and walked with it all the way back to their home. He took into the house and cleaned her up, wiping all the blood from her body and wrapping her in her favorite blanket. He then left her laying on the couch as he went outside and dug a hole in the backyard. Still, Holly was there watching everything Terence did. With a blank expression on her face, he buried Holly in the backyard and sat in front of the grave crying. A smile slowly inched across Holly's face and she got close to Terence, whispering, "Until next time," in his ear, before disappearing as well. Terence quickly turned his head, but no one was there.